Hi everyone, it's Joey Remini from seekingbalance.com.au, and today I've got Ron Souers, your ADHD guy. So we're going to talk a little bit about neurodivergence, diversity of neural wiring, and of course the gift and the wisdom within our differences. So Ron, many people will have heard of the ADHD term from a pathological context, which means it's often talking about difficulties or kind of like diagnoses as though there's something wrong or abnormal. And today we're really here to flip the script and talk about it from just a normalizing point of view and a strengths based conversation. How did you get to this? Why is that a passion of yours?
Yeah, because honestly, I have ADHD. I didn't know that I had ADHD for most of my life.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it was a quite a interesting journey to that discovery. Like I didn't always embrace it. Like in the beginning, I wanted to fix it. So
yeah,
which isn't a thing. It's not something that I currently want to fix.
yeah.
I'm blessed to have it.
Can I get you to flesh out for the listeners what today, with your maturity and your development and your research and your progress, what does ADHD mean to you today? And then we might contrast it to what it meant maybe at first. But what does it mean to you now?
Yeah, it's more of like a hidden treasure. Like it's something where I understand like, I have a lot of creativity. I've got a lot of energy and drive and and like the only thing that I really struggle with is that focus. But through other practices, I've been able to understand like once my focus is like I can like pinpoint that like behind like a magnifying glass or like a laser. Like the human mind in general can literally like do anything once you
Yeah.
have the right focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think stereotypically. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder, I think, is one of the. It's really poorly named. I've spoken to some psychologists in Australia who specialize in this, and ADHD they described as emotional regulation differences, not necessarily attention differences.
Yeah.
And so within our nervous system, our hormone system, our emotional system, we've got this incredible interplay of neurotransmitters and like dopamine and all of these. And so for people who identify as ADHD, they can have some dopamine issues, and dopamine is the feel good, motivating neurotransmitter.
Yeah.
So sometimes people with ADHD will say things like it's really hard to just get up and I don't know, do housework or do school assignments or like do those things like, oh, I don't want to. Like there's not that up and go, ready to flush the system dopamine that says, yeah, I don't really want to do it, but I can do it because I get the wider context of why it matters. And that
Yeah.
up and go can be really flatlining. And that can lead to spirals, shame spirals, I call them, of like, oh my God, why am I so lazy? Why can't I do the laundry like other people? Why can't I just hand an assignment? And why do I do it last minute? Like, why? And there's this sort of shaming because of the difference. And I think once we learn to understand, okay, this is how my system works, this is what motivates me, this is what interests me, this is where I'm passionate and where I want to place my energy, and we can fill that cup, there's probably
Yeah.
a little bit more bandwidth for doing the blah stuff with compassion because it is a bit of a push and a struggle, and we really want to de shame that. Do you want to speak about perhaps your journey with some of that yourself, Ron?
Yeah, and I honestly, it's something that I'm still working on, but it's like there's certain things about that, like that perspective shift, like, being able to shift my perspective on like ADHD as not, as from a problem that I want to fix to something that I can actually use to my advantage because
Yeah.
like I can literally like I can come up with thousands of ideas.
Yeah.
And that can be an issue on
Yeah.
its own because like I'm wanting to do everything But
Yeah.
like going through that process of like, well, I can do this and all this. No, like I'm pretty much just like anyone else. I can only focus on one thing at a time, maybe at the most two. So like understanding that and then putting that purpose behind the reason, like even housework, you
Mm.
know? So like, not that I do it all the time, but I put a reason behind it because like I like the satisfaction that comes from it. That, it's something that's necessary that I need to do that's going to continue to make me a better person and like be fulfilling, like
Mm.
meal prep. Something like that is like, okay, yeah, I got to make this meal, but like if I do this, then I'm gonna be so much better than if I didn't have it. So just really putting that like especially when it comes to work and the emotional regulation part of it is like my emotions can go like all over the place, even today. But like I've been able to train that like through like a process of understanding those emotions and exploring those emotions and then understanding the patterns behind them. But
Mm.
then even further than that, just like literally like understanding that it doesn't matter what emotions are going on. Like if I can learn to get through those emotions and still do the work, because like I understand like if I just sit there and I procrastinate and like the pain from that is like going to be more painful in the long term for me than just actually doing the work. So if I can like attach pleasure to
Mm.
the work through that purpose by like understanding if I just sit around, like the future me is gonna hate me or I don't want to be that version of me. So
Yeah.
hopefully that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm just like drawing it in back to ground. So the ways I teach and work is very much embodied and
Hmm.
inviting people to say, well, what nourishes me? What feels good? And that conversation kind of bypasses any neurodivergent diagnosis because it doesn't matter if you identify as neurotypical, neuronormative,
Yeah.
ADHD, autist, OCD, gifted, depressed, anxious, any of it. This comes into our shared humanity. That when we are anchored in purpose, which you mentioned, when we understand our feeling body and we can feel what we feel and keep moving,
Yeah.
to stay with our process, to stay with our body, and to have those touchstones of nourishment, the whole nervous system has more resilience and equilibrium. So just to give a grounded example, if I know that I've got a really full week and I'm busy with kids and work and commitments and maybe high emotional context and situations thrown in,
Yeah.
I can really make sure I get my early nights or have enough time to read my books or do things that I know is calming for me. Laundry. I love hanging out the laundry and doing laundry. It's very grounding and earthing, and I can make
Yeah.
my soup and my
Interesting.
bone broth or go and walk in the trees and listen to birds because I've got my things that work for me to nurture my nervous system, to keep me anchored and centered, right? That gives me a lot of neurological resilience and hormonal
Yeah.
balance. Then if I shift into like scenario B, where I've got the kids everywhere, the work commitments, the emotions, the stressful context and situations, and I'm not centered and I'm not grounded and I have no idea what nourishes me, I waste
Yeah.
time Googling. I waste time asking other people, well, what do you do when you feel this way? I might project my big emotions onto other people because I can't be with it in myself. So I
Hmm.
overflow, right? Which is not great for relationships. That can make or break friendships and
Yeah.
relationships. Um, my system's firing at 1,000 miles an hour because I'm not centering and grounding. I'm less likely to sleep well. I'm less likely to eat well. I'm
Yeah.
more likely to have fast food, right? You can see the spiral. And then you actually get the mental spirals of, oh my God, I shouldn't feel this. Oh my God, the shame kicks in. I'm wrong. I'm bad. Now I'm going to have to mask that I'm calm. Now I'm going to have to pretend that I'm centered. And then you get all
Yeah.
these layers of exhaustion. So, this is where our common humanity comes in, and I call this my rock steady or sensing ground philosophies of knowing yourself. When you know yourself, you actually transcend the diagnoses. And Ron, I've heard a lot of people who go through the big deep, whatever you want to call it, the deep dive of neurodivergence and identity, sort of come out the other end of it after a few years being like, yeah, I don't even need my label anymore. I'm just Ron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about that for
Definitely.
yourself.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it. It's like for me, finding my deeper purpose in life comes from knowing who my creator is, and that's God for me, and like understanding like, okay, I can just go to God and understand like, okay, this is my purpose. And like there's been so many other like literature that can break down like biblical studies, and there's a lot of interesting and powerful biblical scripture that
Mm,
literally like I can read and transfer into my life in today. And like that has really been, because when you know who you are and what your purpose is, it's like that that streamlines everything. And
yeah.
like this is what I'm gonna do. This is what I was like born to do. I was born with ADHD to tell the story of to other people that this isn't really a problem. Like the reason why, and I don't think they even got the name right, but honestly, it's like I don't. It's like it'll take too much time to be like, okay, this is what I want to be called. No, this is what you know. This is what we're going with right now until that changes. But it's not going to be a problem. But people, that's why it's so important that you have that communication. And that's why I coach that above everything else because we were designed. And once you understand like
Mm.
why God designed us the way that we are designed to connect with one another. And like, and we've come so far from that. Like, especially with the advent of the cell phone and people being on social media and they think that's going to substitute like their basic needs for social interaction. We just don't have any real social skills
This is so
anymore.
juicy. So juicy. I've got so much to say to this, Ron. First of
Yeah.
all, I love that you brought in a sense of spirituality and purpose because I live and breathe that. I don't personally feel comfortable with the word God, and I'm not 100% sure why, but I think it's just because the connotation of God for me leans too heavily along sort of like external patriarchal type values. But my
Hmm.
brother's a big user of the word God and a big believer in God, and he says to me, Joey, God's just love. And I'm like, okay, I can handle that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I totally agree with you. There is some kind of big natural design that we're a part of. We are nature. We are all interconnected. We are all connected. And I do believe each being plays a special and unique role. And
Yeah.
once you drop into this is who I am and this is my sacred role within the whole, it's much bigger than a false ego. The false ego is like, I want to win, I'm greedy, I want to climb the ladder, I want to be better than you. There's competition,
Yeah.
striving, proving, needing external approval, right? Wanting, wanting, wanting. It's like this sort of insatiable hunger. That's the
Yeah.
false ego. The sacred ego says, actually, I really have enough. I'm born enough. And what I can give, I will give. And I love to give to the community, right? It feels good
Yes.
to give to the community. It's
Yes.
effortless because I'm being who I am and I have this, I've got goosebumps saying it. I have this abundant overflow. Of course, I'm going to give you what I can. And I'm
Yeah.
going to receive from you what you can give because this is interdependence. I need you,
Yeah.
you need me. I don't have to fake or try. I'm just perfectly myself and I'm different, which is a good thing because that's the point of biodiversity and human diversity and neural diversity. So, from
Yeah.
a kind of a neuroscience existential perspective, I totally agree with you that each person is beautifully born with a unique nervous system. Why?
Yeah.
Because we have a collective, wider social nervous system that covers the whole planet, and the whole planet has all of these little humans who are acting like filters and detectors to feel what is needed around the planet. If you have people who don't know themselves, masking, pretending, pushing, and just following trends and fads, Those
Yeah.
humans are not able to feed into the collective nervous system because they're living in noise. And that's where they get sick, depleted, exhausted, shame, abnormalized, and pathologies. But when
Yeah.
you have people who are connected to their truth, to what I call the sacred ego, they're interconnected, which we can talk more about that. You get a calm nervous system, you get a centered nervous system, you get a grounded nervous system most of the time. People who are in their sacred ego and interconnected, they will experience anger and fight and flight
Yeah.
when there's injustice. They'll be like, no, this is wrong. Society shouldn't be treating that person that way.
Hmm.
Their nervous system will fire up and they will be speaking out against the violation and abuse. So it's not about this sort of like, I'm always regulated vibe. That's not it. A human who is grounded and integrated can surf all of the nervous system states, stay with themselves, make sense of what they feel in the inner world and how it relates to the outer world, so that they're grounded, connected, and able to voice and express, which is very
Yeah.
different to freeze and fawn, where you just people please, you put your own feelings aside, or you dissociate and numb, avoid, distract, medicate, take
Yeah.
heap of drugs, and just push through. So I love what you're saying, and I resonate.
So I'm curious, like what is like the origin of, your adversity to the word God?
Such a great question, and thanks for asking. I think in my case, so I grew up Catholic, baptized, Catholic
Okay.
schools, but all
Yeah, me
Catholic
too.
schooling. So I had that kind of Christian background and going to church. But from a really young age, I was noticing the discrimination and the contradiction within the
Yeah.
church and the violence um, with regards to global wars that were funded by church members and supported by church members, and the way churches would go in and try and convert indigenous people. I'm just like that to me is violence and inhumane. And so from it, this is
Yeah.
like me being an 8-year old. So I was challenging the church and what it stood for as a very young child. And I didn't like that women couldn't be priests. I didn't like that girls couldn't be altar boys and like ring the bells and light the candles
Hmm.
um and the way they spoke about God felt too dissociated, disconnected, and out of body, because I, from a very young age, had the feeling that God was in me and part of me. And Jesus was just like a brother or a sister, like an equal
Yeah.
peer. And I didn't like the hierarchy of the church, and I didn't like the way most people used the word God. So I really had my own sense of God, which was very much an embodied sense of this larger presence, which really is love, not a
Yeah.
human being, and certainly not a man. Um, but having said that, I also rarely use the term goddess. I'm okay with it, and I love the goddess cultures and the Indian cultures and Hindu cultures and
Yeah.
archetypes. For me, goddesses represent archetypes. Again, we all have those archetypes within us. So they're useful, symbolic. But I feel like when people use the term God, they're often moving away from the symbolic and the mythopoetic, and they're entering a disembodied, dissonant, dissociated, hierarchical state. And my body contracts to that.
No, and I totally appreciate you explaining that to me, and because it's more about enlightening, and like Jesus came
Mm.
to this earth not to get stuff from us, not to be served, but to serve us. So it's like literally when you have something that's not loving or not loving other people, it's not what Christ taught. So it's not really something that's you can say is Christian, because Christian, the very definition of it is Christ-like. And that's the only thing that we can ever hope to be on this earth, is to try to
Mm.
be more loving. And like when I
Mm.
show up with more love, like when I'm trying to be more loving, even when I'm driving in traffic and I'm trying to talk about God to other people or just showing up in a regular conversation, it's so much different. Like I show up so much different because I'm becoming more Christ-like. It's not like being brainwashed and like, oh, you got to be just like Jesus and you got to do this and
Yeah.
rituals. No,
I think
it's a
that,
lifestyle.
and
It's
I,
literally,
yeah, for all the listeners out there who identify as Christian or religious, I want you to rest assured that I respect all beliefs, and my family continue to largely be Christians or Catholics. And many of my friends have interesting relationships. I deeply respect the uniqueness of spirituality, and that each person has their own unique
yeah,
sense
yeah.
of God and spirituality and a connection to something non human. And I think what makes me cringe with the Christian language is it's very cultural. Um, I don't like divisiveness. And the reality is that there are incredible spiritual things going on in India and Afghanistan and wherever, Poland, and people will have their different words and their different languages and their different mythology and their different stories. Um, and I think it's all valid. For me, the real deal is in nature. It's when I look to the trees and the birds
Oh
and the
yeah.
rivers and the ocean. And that, I think, is the common language of us all when we really shift to the non-human. So for me, God, in quotation marks, it is life force. It's nature. It's pattern recognitions. It's fractals repeating. Because I also really appreciate physics, and um, the wider perspective beyond Earth. Not only our solar system, but beyond our solar system. So my relationship to wholeness is extensive, and yeah. So I just wanted to say I'm very much curious about how other people sit with this. I'm not so dogmatic.
Yeah. And neither am I. Like I don't
Yeah.
attest to anything that's like, oh, you need to do this. Like for me, I go by what God says, and like I have no right to judge another servant. Like I have no right to judge you or your belief and say that's wrong.
So
Or
this is when the conversation gets juicy, and
yeah.
I'm excited right now. If you're listening to the podcast, I think my eyes just got a sparkle. But if you can, Ron, what's your process with listening to God? Like, how do you know what God says? What language does God speak to you? Where are you gathering that information? And I do believe it's possible for people to hear God. So I'm not asking this in a loaded way. But you say that you can hear what God is asking of you, and I'm curious, what's that like for you?
Well, it's more like it's not really like the voice of God. You know, sometimes it happens, and I feel like the closer you get to God, the more you'll hear him directly,
Yeah.
but it's really an intercession through the Holy Spirit. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel it more as a feeling or a
Mm-hmm.
thought comes in my mind. And then you have the other thoughts that, like I tend to classify as coming from the devil, because it's like he knows what our temptations are. Like he knows what tempts me. That could be sugar, that could be women. I often like have to catch myself in that temptation
Yeah.
of like lust. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's just a desire to please me. And like it's not bad to be tempted. It's only bad when you act on that temptation. So it's like understanding like
Mm-hmm.
that you have these negative patterns and humans are just inherently like it's easier for them to be bad than it is to be good. So
Oh, I
that's
don't
why
know.
it's
I don't know if I agree with that. I love that we can disagree though,
yeah.
because I really see the goodness in all people, and I feel like people
No,
are
I'm not
they're
saying that they can't be good. I'm just saying it's easier to be bad. It's
well,
easier
hear
to
me
do
out.
those things
Hear
that are
me out, because we might both be right. I think you're right in a fractured culture, in a culture where there are literally systems of abuse and injustice everywhere you look, in hospital
yeah.
systems, schooling systems. I think we're living in these patterns that represent destruction and rape and violence, right?
Yeah.
At a pattern recognition level. And so when you're a human being immersed in that kind of culture, I think it's like a mirroring. So yeah, we can mirror that destructive behavior and that violent behavior and that pushy behavior and forceful behavior that goes against our nature. But
Yeah.
I feel like when humans are in a rich whole community where unique voices are valued, where it actually is our nature to want to contribute. And when you see children, they light up when they get a job, when they can help.
Yeah.
They are so happy. They don't want to be bad. They don't want to do the quote unquote wrong thing. They want connection, they want validation, they want contribution.
Yeah.
If they're capable of opening a door for you, they want to open the door. If they're capable of cooking dinner, they want to cook dinner. And it's about having that culture where they're allowed to express themselves.
Yes.
But if you've got children in a culture where it's like, no, don't do it that way, don't do it that way, wait, no, slow down, stop. They're surrounded by that pattern recognition of don't follow your flow, don't follow your nature, contract,
Hmm.
contract, contract. But uh, that's environmental, that I would say is not a child's nature. So that,
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're definitely living in a society that is so self-centered and so absorbed with what can I get, who can like whatever that takes, and like it's all about your status. It's all about who you know, like how many likes you got on Facebook or whatever
I'm
TikTok.
sh I'm shaking it out for those of you listening on the podcast. I'm like,
And
I hear you. I hear you. It is. It's
so it's so difficult for somebody to stand up for their own values in a society that's like you're just that's who you're taught to be
yeah.
from when you're growing up.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean is like
Yeah. Yeah.
when you're in that type of and in that it is so hard for people to
It,
to want to change and do the
it's
right thing.
you're actually talking about trauma states. You're talking about a
Yeah.
traumatized culture breeding traumatized humans. And it's
Oh yeah.
fragmented. So there is no sense of sacred identity or ego because remember, the sacred ego sits within the whole. So when I am connected to my sacred ego, which is I am Joey, it's that simple. It's
Yeah.
not complicated. When I really, really drop into that, I know that when Ron thrives, I thrive. So I want
Yeah.
to do anything I can to help Ron thrive. It's that simple. And I know
Yeah.
that when I'm caring for nature and the waterways, and when I'm caring for the bird life and the reproductive systems of shorebirds and shorelines, and I'm respecting the coastline, right? I know that I benefit. But if I
Yeah.
was in my false ego, I'd be like, I don't care about the birds. I just want to go surfing. I just want to drive my car I want to go forward driving on the sand. I don't care.
Yeah.
Or I just want to you know, pull Ron down a few pegs so that I can seem more superior, right? That's the false ego.
Yeah.
Um, that has that egocentric, fragmented, tormented, that's a new word,
Yeah.
traumatized
Nice.
identity where there is that disconnection of self and other. When actually there is no separation, is a total illusion, right? News alert.
Yeah.
We are all one. We are all connected, and the shorebirds matter. The waterways matter. Ron matters. I matter. You matter as a listener. We all need each other. And when we all bolster each other and lift each other up, we all benefit.
Yeah, we all win. Exactly. And that's what, it goes back to that first commandment. It's like that Jesus said, love love your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and love one another.
Yeah.
So he wants us to love one another, and he wants us to he doesn't want us to rely on him. Like
What,
unless
what's
it's yeah.
I'm just curious. So, I mean, love feels good, right? Like
Yeah.
when you close your eyes and just feel into being loved and loving others and that cycle we enter when we're really dropping into what love feels like. It's not a performance.
Yeah.
It feels soft and juicy and generative and generous and expansive. So the
Like
question
arms
is,
that are like blankets, being
so
wrapped in a cozy blanket.
yeah, it's total being, it's allowing, it's surrender, it's connection, it's interconnection. The question is, and I kind of have my own answer here, but before I give it, the question is, why wouldn't we jump on the love bandwagon and be loving, right? What do you think personally, if you want to offer your suggestion, why do you think people are stuck on the fear bandwagon and the separation bandwagon and the competition, greed, all of that bandwagon? What do you feel is the block?
Yeah, I feel like it's because people don't feel like they deserve it.
Worth.
Well, at the core of everything, because they believe the lies that they're being told by society, and then they end up telling themselves that and believing that's their truth. So it's like, most people don't say they love you, and even less, it's either in a warped way, or like sexual way,
Yeah.
or it's just, and then they don't even know how to show it.
Oh, it's love.
So
Yeah.
like learning how to love is like one of the highest things that you can do. And trust me, I've got a lot of work to do in that area, especially like loving people, and in traffic. I feel like that's when, because I'm gonna get there on time. Like if I know I'm going to go to heaven because like my creator is going to be there and then all I got to do is just be obedient and loving to other people, like that's a lot easier said than done.
I
But
don't believe
like
any
if
of
I
that, by the way. I
it's
believe
good.
this is heaven. Heaven is on earth. I believe this is me, right? I believe
Okay.
heaven is not out there and it's not the afterlife. I believe heaven is when we're present in the body. And to be present in the body, we have to be consciously connected to our own divinity and our own experience, which is through the eight senses: sight, sound,
Hmm.
touch, smell. Missing one. Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. They're the five big ones. Then the
Yeah, yeah,
vestibular is movement. Proprioception is our ability to know where am I and where is Ron. Where am I in relationship to others and place, right? It's a really big
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Then interoception is our emotional world and body cues. Connecting into that, to be present from the inside out, to feel your inner experience. It's like literally opening a portal and going into a whole new world.
Hmm.
That is heaven on earth. And that is, I believe, how we connect with God and how we connect with our sacredness and our divinity. It's how we heal. It's how we return to our wholeness. It's how we overcome symptoms. And it's how we navigate who we truly are, which I call the sacred ego. Because the false ego relies on the outside in lens, and that's all the doing and the pushing and the forcing and the striving and the looking out there for answers and looking out there for
Hmm.
approval, right? When you go in, you access a different place, and I believe that is what Jesus taught. That's my understanding. And when they translate Jesus's Aramaic words in the context of the time, a lot of what he taught was about breath, connection to the body, releasing, and coming back to what I can do. So a lot of language was I can and I am. So it's
Yeah.
really transcending fear and coming back to the simplicity of our nature with the trees, the breath. And it's very similar actually to what I teach. When I read these books, I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
these basic Jesus teachings are very universal. And I've never studied the Bible, but there's huge overlap. That when you're really
Yeah.
present in the body, there's a universality of um, what interconnectedness and being human really means. And I just read recently from Dan Siegel's work. Have you heard of Dan Siegel? He does some interesting interdisciplinary work with neuroscience and medicine and psychology and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy. But he spoke about once we get these higher states of love, interconnectedness, sacredness, divinity, spirituality, that's actually a sign we're integrated as a human. So when
Hmm.
people can't yet feel sacredness, love, connection to God, interconnectedness with the wider universe, the wider planet, they are possibly still navigating trauma states. They're still living within fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Yeah.
And so that awareness hasn't cracked through that veil. And that's the work, I think, on the planet at this point in time, is we're learning how to reconnect into our body, because trauma is the inability to connect to our own senses. Once you can
Yeah.
connect to your senses, which is the work I do, the trauma naturally resolves. You don't have to do nervous system regulation. It's about reconnecting and re-listening. The rest is natural. It happens for
Yeah.
you and through you. And a lot of my clients who go through this work, they like, Joey, this is like a miracle. God sent you to me. There's a lot of that God-like language, right? Which is
Yeah.
not actually what I teach, but it naturally comes out of the process. It feels like being touched by God, when all it is returning to our nature through the body. So I believe heaven is on earth and its presence embodied.
Well, you can experience heaven on earth, yeah. But I mean, for me, and none of us that are living in this realm can understand like what heaven is and how great it is. But like I can like what I believe is what I've heard,
Mm.
and how that connection's there. Like we all like it doesn't matter where you're what you believe in. You anybody respects somebody that's loving and caring and can like turn the other cheek and go the extra mile. Like we all love Mother Teresa, and she literally like wasn't always, she's not necessarily nice, but like she when she went after something, like she's gonna get it, because she had that higher belief and that power. Like for me, I know I'm powerless without my God. So when I know I've got the backing of a God that can literally do anything, that's got the treasures of heaven, of whatever, like I can do anything. I know I have the hope to
Mm.
move forward because like I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Even if even if the outcome is negative,
Yeah.
so being able to like control your emotions like on that level of like, like it's not having those emotions, but it's being able to experience those emotions and still follow through, because those emotions are going to be like usually take so much out of people that are neurodivergent, because we're highly sensitive individuals. Like
Mm.
we experience it, and it might be different for me and you. Like I might be t sensitive to the touch, or somebody else might be sensitive to their hearing,
Mm.
or their emotions might be really like sensitive or highly tuned to the room, so they understand like the energy vibes that are going on. So
Yeah.
I really believe like people that are neurodivergent are like special people from God, because we're being pushed down our whole lives and taught that we're worth nothing.
Mm.
Only people that are threats get that type of treatment.
Yeah, I've got a lot to say here, and I want to gently reflect it back to you. And I love that I love that you clarified the what you meant by quote unquote controlling emotions, because I think we don't need to control emotions, but we do need to cultivate a mature container.
Yeah,
So I'm high sensitive, right? I'm very neurodivergent and I'm very rare, apparently. So I've got all the
yeah,
sensitivities to the nth degree. Like any sensitivity you can have, name it. But that also gives me high intelligence, because when you're sensitive, you
yeah.
get more information. So when I'm in a room, I'm reading a room intensely.
Hmm.
I've got all the information. I can be 10 steps ahead of other people because I see exactly what's going on. And there's a lot of pattern recognition. But that means I'm fragile to burnout,
Yeah.
because it's so much physiological processing that give me 2 hours in a crowd and I am
You're
gonna need
spent.
to recenter. Yeah, I'm gonna need to go be by a tree or look at the stars, or and that's hard to accept, but I've learned you can't fight nature. I am what I am. There's strengths and there's challenges. There's strengths and there's challenges. So yes, I have had to learn in order to be functional, which I am, I'm thriving. I've had to learn how to have those big emotions, the really intense ones and the really paradoxical ones, and hold a container for myself to complete them, to metabolize them, to feel them through, because we don't control them, we learn from them. So, what is
Yeah.
this emotion teaching me? How is it aligning my compass? And once we surrender into the beauty of the full spectrum of our human emotions, from hostility and frustration to grief and whatever, envy, all of it, they're exquisite. When you actually dive in to the river and just let it take you, which is
Yeah.
surrender, it feels amazing. Like, to be angry, to own it, to express it in a way that's healthy feels so good. It feels so powerful. And this is one of my beefs, actually. It's totally off topic. But there's a lot of sort of pressure on parents these days to, like, sort of not show your emotion to your children and to be this loving container
Yeah.
of unconditional love that's just always holding. And it's like, no, you're a human. It's like, if you're angry, just be angry and own it. And then you teach your child,
Yeah.
my my breath is shallow, my voice is tight, my muscles are contracted. I really want to kick a football in the backyard, so I'm going to go kick a football in the backyard. I am feeling anger move through my body, and this is what it looks like, and this is what it feels like. Then what I'm giving my kids is a coherent signal, because my
Yeah.
kids are picking up on all of my micro vocal tone, my facial features, my body language. And when I give them language that says this is what an angry person looks like and it's nothing to be afraid of, they just come and watch me kick the ball in the backyard, and they're so calm. Like,
Yeah.
they're so regulated when I'm coherent. So it's like I'm teaching them emotional regulation by showing them what it looks like and showing them how I move it.
Exactly.
And at no point am I blaming them or involving them. They are just like little witnesses watching a museum piece. I'm the museum piece of emotional human exhibitry. And they're beside me feeling safe and feeling contained. But that's emotional education. So I think
Yeah.
it's not about controlling the emotions and sucking it in and pretending I'm not angry and faking calm and, putting on this tight facial muscles to try and appear somehow this ever present, unconditional, loving container that supposedly a mother, quote unquote, should be. It's just being who I am, owning it, and being safe with my emotional flow.
Yeah.
Um, so, the only other thing I wanted to speak of is I don't personally believe in right and wrong or good and bad or positive and negative. I really feel that there is a greater paradox to all things. So, I have a different spaciousness for things like the devil. Like, if I feel the devil come into my life, it's usually in a dance and it's like more like a tango. And I just let
Hmm.
that devil know it cannot manipulate me and I will not be told. And I feel quite sassy around that energy. I don't
Yeah.
um I don't feel disempowered or powerless. And I think that's the point of maturing as an adult, is that we say yes and welcome to all parts, including what some people would call negative.
Hmm.
But I think when you have space for all of that and you invite all of it in and you allow it to shape you and teach you, but you keep that container of maturity, you just grow through the experience.
Yeah.
We can only do that though if we're connected to our body. If we're living up here in the land of shoulds, and this is how I should be, and this is what I should do, and God said I should do this, so therefore I should do that, and it's very heady. I don't think the depth of that learning is accessed, that embodied wisdom. Um, and some people would say that what I talk about is much more of a feminine style spirituality of wholeness and paradox. And
Hmm.
then the right and wrong, positive and negative spirituality of following rules is much more of a masculine based spirituality. So that's sometimes how it's described, but each to their own. And I think whatever allows you to be a kind, loving person and whatever is resonant for you is fabulous. So I take the embodiment spirituality route because that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. And the one thing is but you do believe in injustice, right?
Yeah.
So that means that there's wrong. And that there means that there's something that's good
This is
that
exactly
has
what
to
my
fight
husband
that.
says. Um, I think that's too
Interesting.
simplistic, is my answer. But having said that, I need to practice my argument here because this is exactly the kind of arguments me and my husband have. Because he's like, I want to teach the kids right and wrong and good and bad, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure that's, but it's good for them to have different
I mean,
role
I'm not
models
saying that
too.
there's like it's an ultimatum. It's like an ultimate. Like I've done bad things in my life. We've all done bad things in our lives. We've all done things that we regret, and oftentimes those are the most valuable
Yeah.
lessons. The Bible is filled
So
with characters.
right there is the paradox, right? So
Yeah,
doing a bad thing invites an amazing opportunity for repair, attunement, and love, which in
yeah,
its wholeness is growth and evolution and wisdom. So I don't feel comfortable calling it bad because I'm seeing the whole picture, whereas I think my husband is boiling it down to this isolated event and saying, well, it's either good or bad, right? And
no, I
there's
totally hear you.
there's probably truth to both. It's like yes and I think when we take the bigger um, picture,
Yeah,
there really are no mistakes. And even people who are totally psychopaths or sociopaths and doing terrible, terrible, destructive things, when you really step back and look at the bigger patterns unfolding, they are part of a symptomatic human species and they're part of
mhm.
bigger cultural movements. And they are sort of like the pimple coming out. That they're expressing something that we're all feeling. And we need to
Yeah,
be able to cradle and embrace them in our humanity for their healing and for our collective healing. So they are not bad people, but they are in a pattern of very destructive behaviors where people are getting hurt. And I don't approve of it and I don't condone of it. But I feel like we need to embrace them in our loving sense of humanity because
yeah,
they are a reflection of the world that we have all created. We're all
yeah.
interconnected. So this is the paradox.
Yeah, and we're just stewards over this planet. He's given us stewardship, and what we do is we care for the planet, and we care, and we make sure that people that don't have the voice to be able to speak have somebody that's there that can be the example, that they can stand up to these injustices, not these people, but the wrong acts of like of of ignorance or greed or
Yeah.
whatever that may be in society, that we can
Yeah.
the only way to change that is a group of people standing up for what is right, for what is just, for what we want to be remembered as. And it's only through those struggles that we can continue to grow and foster something bigger,
I
something
feel
greater.
yeah, I feel like
Like the
if
good, the bad can come from the good.
yeah,
Anything bad can be made into good. It's
yeah,
just how you see it. It's not
yeah,
that
and I
these
think
things are like, it's just
but
it has to kind of have a label in
well,
order for it
hear
to
me
to
hear,
to be able to see that.
hear me out because I think when you've got a big cluster of different humans from different cultures
Yeah.
and different backgrounds and different socioeconomic demographics and all that, having good, bad, right, and wrong, I think is problematic because people will bicker. So
Yeah.
I think the way I look at it is it generative or is it destructive? It's that simple. And it's like when you
Hmm.
look at the planet and politics and leadership, are we caring for waterway systems? Are we caring for biodiversity? Are we caring for the weakest people or the
Yeah.
weakest species? And like
That's
really
what God
looking
taught
at,
us.
yeah, really looking at being generative and respectful because at the same time, and this is very controversial, but while I'm on a rant, I'll keep going. I don't necessarily believe in prolonging life either. I think it's so how I'm not afraid of death. To me, death is going home. We come from death. We're born into this
Yeah.
human form and then we go back to the cosmos somewhere. And I think there is an obsession in our modern day culture, this sort of like toxic, fear of death. It's like we're supposed to die, and we don't all get an
Yeah.
entitled, long, healthy life. Some of us are going to die young, and
Yeah.
that's like trees, that's like rabbits. Like we all have these diverse lifespans. And with the modern day science and medicine, I feel like there is an obsession with prolonging life rather than respectfully moving through rites of passage with death. So I think that's another part.
Indeed.
See, but if you think about right and wrong, right, then it gets too black and white, and it's like, well, no, life is right and death is wrong. No, death is perfectly healthy part of seasonal, cyclical, biological nature, of which we're a part.
Yeah. I think death is just a doorway. It's just a
Yeah.
doorway to like this life on earth is so small and so short.
Yes.
For us to grasp and get everything that we can in this life when we can't take anything with us. The only thing we can take with us is the character we build here. That's why it's so important
Yeah.
to do good things and to see these opportunities that are, struggles or challenges as tests for
Yeah.
your character to grow, because the best relationships anybody's ever had are the ones that had that little bit of that tension, that you went through those struggles together and you became stronger and connected. And it couldn't have done that without that, bad or whatever you want to say, that experiences, those are necessary for us to grow. Just like a diamond needs pressure, massive pressure, in order to become like,
Yeah.
and that's where I see that hidden treasure from people that are neurodivergent, because they've been under so much pressure that they can't really see that they're becoming a diamond, that
Oh,
they're
yeah.
becoming something
I agree.
that's so undeniable. And that's what I want, like that's what I coach, is
Yeah.
guys to really see that, to go from invisible to undeniable. They can't deny how you come into a room, and once you make that transformation, there's no turning back. But
Yeah.
it's not, it can't be given by osmosis. You've got to take it. You've got to take the necessary steps in order to do that.
I want to close our conversation by saying I really agree with Ron. Um, I feel like people who have been born with what are currently sort of called neurodivergences. So everybody's neurodiverse. All people are different and unique. Some
Yeah.
people just fit neurologically speaking a statistically normal expression of that. So the way they sleep, the way they talk, the way they communicate, the way they study and learn, the way they do life is kind of statistically normal. So things are easier for them. There's not as many challenges. Won't get teased as much, not as many pushback. But when you fall into the lower statistical prevalence of a neurological expression, you might learn differently. You might have different sleep cycles. You might have different sensitivities, different ways of perceiving the world, experiencing the world, different types of intelligence, different types of emotional expression. There's less of you. The world is not made for you. So the world can feel too fast, too noisy, too complicated, too superficial, right? I actually think that these people on the edges, the people who diverge from normal, make the best leaders because they are
Yeah.
capturing different information from the environment. And because they have that minority status, they actually know what it feels like to be vulnerable, weak, and an outsider. So that gives them that embodied experience of what it feels like to need to be cared for and what it feels like to need to have accommodations made for you. They are all really important for being a great leader. So
Yeah.
a lot of neurodivergent people, while they may get burnt out and sick and anxious and depressed more easily because of the culture we're in, once they are on top of that, once they can nurture their strengths and understand their somatic intelligence and their neural intelligence, they make
Yeah.
fantastic leaders because they nurture themselves, they sleep well, they can thrive, and they can use all of that data they're collecting, all of that invisible sensory input, use their pattern recognition, and they can make great visionaries. They've,
Oh yeah.
like you said, got
100%.
all the ideas in the world. So I think that's
It's
how I
about that
really,
compassion.
yeah, and compassion. So it's like, how can we reframe? So a lot of my clients are high sensitive. They're riddled with complex medical conditions and disorders, and they just feel bedridden. But no one wants to be
Mm.
bedridden. We want to be out there contributing to the planet, not a burden
Yeah.
on the planet. So it's like, how do we shift from sickness to strength? And how do we shift from like sort of sickly follower or Googling answers externally to actually trusting the wisdom of our body and asking within? Instead of going out to the expert out there, you turn inwards to the expert in here and you become that leader. You become self leader, if nothing else. Self leadership, I think, is what will change the planet.
Yeah, well, leading with service, basically, like you're leading and following that example of Jesus. Like, I don't know why people get so hung up on like why Jesus, all he wanted to do was love, and you can find no greater example of a leader anywhere else. And all the other leaders are just Christ-like in nature, so it's really just taking
Well,
that essence
yeah,
and
I think we all have the capacity to
yeah,
access what you're calling Jesus. And my deep feeling is Jesus didn't want to be pedestaled and he didn't want to be othered. He wanted everybody to look him in the face and say, I can be like you too.
yeah,
I
exactly.
can live like you. I can embody love. I can do what's kind because it's not about being right, but I think it is about being kind, kind to ourselves, kind to the planet, and kind to each other. And so I do feel it's important to not pedestalize Jesus. And he was a walking, talking, breathing embodiment of divinity in human
Yeah,
form. And that's what I feel all humans need to come back to. So, for those of you listening, regardless of what your religious background or current beliefs are, you are divine. We are all part of this divine whole. We are all living human beings connected to this sacred thread.
oh
We're
yeah,
all
we're
connected.
interconnected.
We're
we're
all
we're
connected.
designed that way.
And
So
it's that world of separation that we're currently largely living in, the mainstream. That's our culture clash. And I
yeah,
feel like Jesus was really beautifully embodying the paradigm of love and connection and sensuality, coming back to our
yeah, he
senses.
connected with people from all walks of life. He didn't discriminate against anybody. He didn't say you're not a Jew, I can't talk to you. He didn't say,
Of course
oh,
not.
you did that or you sinned. Like, no, he came to rescue us and give us something to live for and an example to set. And all he wants of us is to show that love and to spread that good news to other people. So if, like for you, if just suppose, if there was a creator out there, that you could call on and would give you the wisdom and the love and would love you regardless, wouldn't you want to know that creator better?
I I kind of feel like that's a loaded or a leading question. But I truly
It's
believe
just it's
that
just your opinion. In
my
your opinion.
belief or my opinion is that each human body is a sacred filter. And when people take their gaze and their consciousness inward, that's how they hear their personal voice of God. And the more they do that, the stronger that relationship and the stronger that voice. And the stronger they realize that they are interconnected to everything and that they are powerful, they are potent, and they are an important, valued, worthy part of this system. And it's through that connection to reality. So I come from a neuroscience background, and some
Hmm.
stuff is just fiction. But when you connect into what's real and what's firing in your body, what nerves, what's actually going on, that takes us into this grounded, integrated spirituality. So I feel like I do have a cosmic phone line direct to what you're calling the creator. And that's
Yeah.
come through this lifelong practice of turning within and talking to that essence that is beyond me and not me.
Yeah.
Um, so I believe all humans can do that, and we do it
No,
by
there's so
going
many
in.
connections for what you say and what you're doing is like it's there. It's exactly how God created everything is like with this divine purpose of to love one another. Like all like for me, like like how loving is a creator that wants to get to know us despite like our sinful nature, our imperfection. Is a perfect being that wants us to be part of his family. He wants to get to know us and love us and have this deep, intimate relationship. That is just so beyond my comprehension of like what I understand in this world because there's nothing like it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I know that I certainly relate to what you say there in terms of I want to be known and I want to know people. And I
Yeah,
don't
well,
want, I
our
don't want to,
biggest thing
I
is
don't
to
want
be
to.
known and to be loved, to be
And a lot
and
of people, because
acknowledged.
I can tell you this, I live the world with my door wide open and I'm happy to know and love everyone. I haven't met a human
Yeah.
I can't love. But a lot of people don't want to be known. And a lot of people slam the door down and they don't want to be intimate and they're afraid of intimacy. So there's a lot of fear of being known, a fear of being seen. I personally don't believe in sin. And I also have no fear of merging with others. I'm very, my boundary of self is strong and permeable. So I can be intimately connected and close, but not merge. And that's a skill set that I teach.
Hmm.
Um, and so what you're describing there is a lived reality for me. And it's something that is contactable, it's embodied. And
Yeah.
there's a fearlessness to really be able to get in close to people even when they're accused of crimes or jailed. One of my friends is jailed right now, and everybody was accusing her of this and that, and I just got in right close and I got closer to get to know her because I wanted to make my own. I wanted to
Hmm.
relate to her, not believe the media, not believe the hype. I wanted to know her, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
To see beyond and to see right into the essence and the
Yeah.
soul of a person, there is a fearlessness. And
It's powerful.
um, and I don't believe that's limited to God or creator. That's all humans can do that when they have those skills. And quite frankly, they're teachable skills. You need to be able to be vulnerable and open. You need to have a window of tolerance, bandwidth, and nervous system capacity that you can stay with intensity. And you need to have the relational skills to step into and navigate and attune to the relational intimacy. And a lot of people can't handle intensity, so they shut down and move away. A lot of people don't
Hmm.
understand relational attunement or repair, so they shut down and go away. And some people need on and off intimacy where they're like, I can handle a bit of you, and then I need to go and sort of defrag. And then they'll dip in again. Okay, a little bit of intimacy, and then I'll. So, like, we need to build our skills of having the bandwidth, capacity, intensity, and relational intimacy to be this living love that you're talking about as God, Jesus, and Creator. They're all available to us now. That is not a pipe dream. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people talk about enlightenment as though it's lofty and out there and unattainable and like, Mother Teresa and archangels and whatever. It's like, no, no, you're human. You can be the embodiment of love. You can surrender. You can live this. And my sense is we need to speak from a more grounded place so that more people don't think it's out there and not in here.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I'm not denying anything that you're saying. It is totally attainable, but you can get to another level if you have that real like um legitimate connection that you feel through your belief. So
Yeah.
I feel like you can get there so much quicker and so much deeper with, not that that's not available. There's so many great people in this world,
Yeah. And
in different types of religions and
I think what you're
um,
talking about there,
spirituality.
I think what you're talking about there, Ron, is integration. Like Dan Siegel says, these are our integrated states. When we
Yeah.
make
I
sense of
mean, you talk
ourselves,
about the subconscious
yeah,
mind and the power of that. Like you can literally transform your destiny. But that's also like that's written in the Bible as well, is like you the thoughts that you have will dictate your life. Like literally you can transform your life if you understand how to transform your thoughts into the life that you want to live. So
yeah,
it's there for anybody.
there is truth to that, and that's what I call the sacred I am.
Yeah.
And what I mean by the sacred I am is it's evolving from the false ego into the sacred sense of self that I am whatever I claim to be, right? So you write your own story, which you're calling destiny. And the sacred I am is a process of really recognizing what am I not? What's all the stuff I've been told I am that I'm not? And emptying that, right? That's a process. And then writing, well, who am I and what am I here to contribute? How can I access my gifts and then have that abundance and overflow that I want to offer it back out into the world? So it's not egocentric or selfish or isolating or separationist. It's the opposite of that. It's wholeness, it's interconnected, it has a
Yeah.
spiritual element, it's got that sacred divinity that's grounded in real lived reality. It's not tapping into spiritual woo or fiction or, you know, I don't know, out of body, disembodied experiences. It's the sacred I am is grounded. It's in your breath, it's in your eight senses, and it absolutely changes what you're calling destiny. It rewrites your whole life. It's true.
Yeah.
So I can't believe that's in the Bible. That's profound.
There's a lot of stuff in the Bible.
I'm sure. I'm
A lot of
sure there is.
promises, a lot of secrets.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not like you can just read the Bible and there's a lot of literature that helps to break down the Bible, and often like you can read articles, to like if especially if you have questions and going to other people, especially going to small groups, because you can't really do this by yourself. Nothing can be done by yourself. Even I forget who the guy who climbed Mount Everest was like. He said, if you try to do climb Mount Everest on your own, that's literally suicide. Like you need a team, and you need a team to do anything to climb any mountain. And some of these, like like being insecure or being lonely or being in debt, those are mountains that
Yeah.
each and of every one of us has to climb. We all have our own mountain to climb.
It's
And
beautiful.
when we, yeah, when we go and we can get the right people, we just need three or four people in our lives that like we can count on and we can tell them what's going on in our lives. And that's your team.
Yeah.
Like and that's that
It's
whole interconnectedness. We're
an
we're supposed to be to get working together.
interdependence.
Interdependence.
Interdependence. Yeah. And so if you think about, I love the metaphors, thank you. If you think about your hike, so whatever it is for you listeners, maybe it's an illness, maybe it's a symptom, maybe it's career, maybe it's relationship, maybe it's parenthood. You've got your mountain, you've got your hike. Having this interdependent support team doesn't mean you externalize and give your power away to them and become codependent on them, right? That's when you
Yeah.
want fix, you want the cure, you want them to rescue you. No. Nobody is here to rescue you because you don't need rescuing. Why? Because you're sovereign. You are powerful, but you don't have to do it alone. And it's very paradoxical because you technically do walk the hike alone. It's your hike, right? So let's say you're Ron's client. Ron's not going to go and live your life with you and do it with you. He's on your team beside you, witnessing bits and pieces and supporting where he can. That's interdependence, where you have a team that offers you
Yeah.
reference points and supports. They throw you a muesli bar, they help you refill your water, but you actually hike alone. And that is nothing to be ashamed of. I think we'll finish up the talk here, but in my life, I can speak from experience. I've been like, why am I doing this alone? Why am I alone again? And there's another hike, another mountain. I'm alone again. I'm alone again. And of course, I was never alone. I definitely had my spiritual support team, always, and that's always been epically strong for me. And I've always had different random humans come and go throughout my life to offer me that thing I needed at that time I needed it. And it sort of just happened. But there
Yeah.
hasn't been that sense of a continual, like if you think about your kind of like American movie rugby team or something, it hasn't been like a very tight knit community in that context. So it's felt alone. But when you live in this soulful, authentic way, the reality is you're living your life and there's only one of you on the planet and you have to live your life and walk your life one step at a time, one breath at a time. Technically, you're alone for the continuity of it. And
Yeah.
then you have these little rest points where people meet you and support you and they try their best to understand you. And so I want to normalize the aloneness because the only way to not do this alone is to not live your life and merge with someone when you're actually not on your life anymore. So to
Hmm.
truly be sovereign and aligned to your uniqueness, there is an element of aloneness that is actually perfect and necessary. So I wanted to really speak to that. And
Yeah. No.
if you're not outsourcing to your support people, whoever they are, you're likely to burn out and not succeed, which is the great Mount Everest metaphor. You need your support team or it's suicide. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. You need
Thanks.
both.
Thanks for your time today, Ron.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on your podcast
It was a
in this
juicy
in,
conversation.
yeah, incredibly engaging and deep conversation. I didn't expect it to go there,
It's great.
but
I
I'm
love
glad it
you.
did.
If people want to find you, where would they? Your ADHDguy.com.
Yeah, you can step into my world. It's on my podcast. Don't mind me. I just have ADHD. Or if you're I'm offering you guys a special gift. It's called Master the Moment. And it's like a short video that teaches you how to show up, with eye contact and different things to really help you get into that moment and own that moment. And you can find that at youradhdguy.com.
Beautiful. Thanks for your contributions today, and I think it's really important that we all explore what spirituality means to us.
Yeah,
And that
definitely.
as many people as there are on the planet, there's that many different types of spirituality. So, really giving people the full permission to take your time to discover what it means to you. And you'll know because your body compass will tell you when you've got your spiritual connection in alignment for you, you'll get that whole body expansion, flush, vitality, flow. It's like every cell in your body is pinging yes. And some versions of spirituality that don't align with you will give you that no, or that maybe, or that I'm not sure. And anything
Hmm.
that's not the full body yes is a type of no. So that's one way of how you can explore this. But once you find it, you will know because it's quite orgasmic. It takes you somewhere and it's yours. It's yours
Yeah.
alone.
I think anything that causes you anxiety for a prolonged period of time is telling you that that's not the right way to go.
Yeah, the gift of anxiety. Thanks so much, Ron. I'm Joey Remini. If you want to learn more about me, seekingbalance.com.au. I've got my communities that you can join, Rocksteady and Sensing Ground, and it's always beautiful to meet more people and to live the body wisdom together. So it's a bye for now.
Yeah, you take care. God bless.